What's going on, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Jake and Joe Postgame Show presented by First Star Logistics. Each week the Bengals play, we'll have a postgame show. We'll break down the biggest stories, and this game was particularly drunk, and it ended with a heated exchange between Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor on the sideline as the Bengals offense goes over 30 points once again in a pretty thorough whipping of a very poorly quarterback team in the Tennessee Titans. Every week here on the Jake and Joe Postgame Show presented by First Star Logistics, we have sweet things to give away. This week, it is a PlayStation 5. You've got a winner from Twitter that we'll be announcing at the end of the show. You also have a chance if you're watching us on YouTube, and I'll remind you just a couple of times throughout this game, for those of you watching on YouTube, or throughout the show, for those of you watching on YouTube, you have a chance to win that PlayStation 5 with hashtag Bengals win is your hashtag this week. So those of you entering hashtag First Star Logistics, good guess. That is not the hashtag this week, though. Hashtag Bengals win. I'm going to keep saying it until I see somebody put it in the chat because you guys are still putting in the wrong hashtag.
Not listening. There we go,
okay,
Daniel.
You got it now. They're just behind. They're catching up. There's a delay between us talking in the chat. They got it. One of those entries in the chat, and you have a chance to win a PlayStation 5. And this week, Joe, for the sixth time this season as the Bengals move to 6-8. We get to talk about a win here, and I know you haven't been with me for all of them, but we get to talk about a win. And I said this in the open, one of the drunkest games in a real long time for the Cincinnati Bengals team. 10 turnovers combined for the two teams, 2 on 1 play, and a total of 26 penalties for 223 yards. A drunk game, not terribly fun to watch all of the flags, but Joe, as you watch this game, what's your big takeaway? Because that's where we always start the show.
That is the big takeaway, but I think it goes to a larger picture because we don't expect the Bengals to play this way. 26 penalties is crazy, first of all. I felt like this was one of the worst officiated games I've ever watched. I mean, it's up there. There was a lot of calls where I'm like, you don't have to call that.
No.
And you did it multiple times in the same game. And then there were missed calls, of course, as there always are. But it's usually when the flag comes out, and I'm like, how many times does that get called out of 10 instances on a Sunday? Maybe once, and it has to happen here 5 times in this game. The Bengals are one of the least penalized teams. And so it was weird for us to watch. And we usually say this season, Burrow has to play perfect. Things need to be perfect for them to get a win. Well, it wasn't today. Luckily, the defense and the Titans were pretty bad on offense for most of the game. The defense found a way to create some turnovers and make some big plays. Was it 10 turnovers total in this game for both sides, which is just, again, drunk bananas type of football to watch. But at the same time, things weren't perfect. Burrow wasn't perfect. There was a lot of issues, and yet they still found a way to win and found a way to make the timely play quite a few times. And I think that's the mark of the previous teams, the older teams that found a way to string wins together. And even sometimes you got to beat the bad teams on your schedule. And the Bengals have struggled with that a lot this year. But this game felt comfortable throughout, despite it at the end looking closer than it actually was.
Yeah, against teams picking higher than the Bengals this year, they haven't lost, I believe. So that's the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots would be the one loss. I'm sorry. Immediately wrong as soon as I look at the week one. But Carolina, New York Giants, Cleveland Browns, Tennessee Titans, all wins. I think they're 1 pick ahead of Dallas still, despite Dallas winning again this week. Dallas might keep winning. Maybe the Bengals will lose at some point down the stretch here. We don't know what's going to happen down the stretch. But against those teams, when I looked at the draft order, because people are always curious about, where are the Bengals picking in the draft if the season were to end today?
Do you have that now?
I do have that now. We will talk about that in just a second. And the Las Vegas Raiders. So all these teams the Bengals have played that are picking ahead of them in the draft order, they've lost only to New England back in week 1, the 3-10 New England Patriots, as of this very moment. The Bengals
could end up being the difference in the season.
It's one of them. I don't think that by itself is enough. But
right, we could pick any of them.
If they're 7-7 right now,
right,
we're still probably talking about the wild card and like desperation. Can Joe Burrow carry a terrible defense in the playoffs? A clearly non-playoff caliber defense, but the Bengals now picking 12th if the season were to end today. Still 1 pick ahead of the Dallas Cowboys, who are technically picking after them, but at 6-8, tied with. In overall record, the Miami Dolphins, the Dallas Cowboys, and the San Francisco 49ers, they lose the strength of schedule tiebreaker with Miami in terms of draft order. They win that tiebreaker against Dallas and San Francisco. So that is the draft order. If the season were to end today, you cover the big takeaways pretty well, Joe. The one that I will throw in there is the defense took the opportunities they had this week, which is a step in the right direction. That is what you need to see. The Bengals have been able to suppress offenses led by terrible quarterbacks consistently this year. And that's led to the idea for me that the Bengals defense is a great litmus test for, is your quarterback an NFL quarterback? If your offense sucks, then your quarterback is not an NFL quarterback. And this is something that I've talked to Mike Santagata about. It's partially his idea as well, or maybe it's entirely his idea that I'm taking credit for. I can't remember, but we've definitely talked about it quite a bit, where like they can beat up on bad quarterbacks, and they scooped up 3 gift interceptions in this game, and one awesome play from Mike Hilton on a tip drill. And Trey Hendrickson creates a great turnover of his own on the forced fumble. McKinley Jackson has an awesome play to force a fumble. So those you certainly credit the defense for. There are 3 plays there that are awesome plays from the defense, 3 plays that are absolute gifts from Mason Rudolph and Will Levis, who may be 2 of the worst quarterbacks on the planet, I feel, for Brian Callahan trying to get offense out of those guys. But the Titans still scored 27 points. And so despite all of this opportunism from the Bengals defense in this game and capitalizing on the opportunities they had to create turnovers, you still have Jordan Battle losing the ball before he crosses the end zone. And I don't even think that's him celebrating early. I think that's just him losing the handle on the football.
Switching hands, though, he definitely goes to switch. It looks like maybe throw the ball, at the back wall, maybe.
Doesn't need to switch hands there. Great point. But was it Drake Kirkpatrick did this once around the 1 yard line or something?
Broncos, 99-yard interception.
And he recovered it himself or whatever it was, or maybe he just fell. Regardless, it was reminiscent of that to me, where it's not like he was like blatantly celebrating or like dropping the ball on purpose. He fumbled. And so you have that on a play that should have been a positive for this Bengals defense, ends up being flubbed at the end. And then all of the fatal flaws for this defense are still there. And so while they score 37 points in this game, they give up 21 while the game is close. They give up a garbage time touchdown to end the game on a pretty pathetic looking drive, to be honest, from them, which isn't the way you want to finish the game.
No.
You could say, oh, it was a good game for the defense. They're the reason the Bengals won. They had all those turnovers. They scored a touchdown. They gave the Bengals offense short fields. It still is the same defense. They're still missing tackles. They're still giving up way too much when opposing offenses are willing to just check the ball down. They're still losing guys in coverage far too often. And I said the missing tackles part already, so I don't need to belabor the point. But all of the same issues are still there. And so that is frustrating to me. And then the other side of things, the protection in this game was pretty dreadful against the Titans a Titans defensive line that has some players, but they're not that good.
They can't rush the passer.
Tavondre Sweat had a career game as a pass rusher. Jeffrey Simmons made the Bengals offensive line play a game in hell. Alex Kappa is now dealing with an injury. He was back in the blue tent and left the game early. So we'll see if it's, Cody Ford returning at left tackle next week. It's going to be somebody else at right guard, which, hey, I hear you. Alex Kappa has been dreadful this season. Maybe you're excited to see if something different can work there. I don't know what the next step is, but it was not a good game in protection. And some of these Joe Burrow plays we're going to talk about where he wasn't perfect were heavily influenced by pressure. And it was pressure that wasn't like late in the snap pressure. It was clean losses, individual losses, or communication issues where Burrow is right, and he's having to force the ball out a little bit earlier at times than he wants, and from less than clean platforms, let's say. So despite some of these turnovers certainly being on Burrow to some degree, they still have mitigating factors there, which to me are the protection issues.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I'd like to keep going on the defense a little bit because we probably go 70-30 for offense. So let's do a little more defense today. When you said, they are still the same defense. And I felt that same energy from people on Twitter reading the comments during games of like, is Lou saving his job? Is this guy salvageable? Can we use this guy? And I don't think Lou is salvaging his job. So I want to skip over even saying that. But I think 2 players making plays in the secondary, players we thought would perform better this season, make a difference. Cam Taylor-Britt's getting his hand on the ball much more often. That's 3 games in a row where, he's got 2 interceptions, 1 tip to Geno Stone versus the Cowboys. This one, he gets makes a nice play on third down. Geno Stone intercepts. I mean, I don't know how Will Levis doesn't see him and throw it, but you still got to jump it. And that's what it looks like at the deep free safety position when you're intercepting a ball in front of you. It looks just like that. He returns it for the score. Those two making plays makes the secondary feel okay. Now we see they're still stiff. They're still slow. The linebackers are dreadful without Logan Wilson. My God, they're dreadful. I can't believe how, maybe we've underrated Logan Wilson a little bit. I thought he was having a good year, a solid year, I should say. Maybe not getting his hands on the ball like he was in previous years, but the linebackers look much worse without him. And then I would say, from that perspective, if you can get, and I thought dead cat bounce was you brought it up a couple of weeks ago. Is this going to happen? Are we going to see this at the end of the year? And I thought it was a common phrase. Apparently I learned people don't know what that is, but it's don't buy the stock. Don't buy that little bounce, because even a dead cat bounces. So it's a financial term of, even though everything is tanking, you may get one little blip at the end there. Don't think that's that stock, rebounding. And I would say that's true about the defense here. There's still a lot of issues. There's still probably 8+ guys are going to have to be new starters next year, maybe 7. I've been toying with the idea of, do you bring back BJ Hill, who had another sack? Do you need some of these guys that have been solid players for you, but not difference makers? So, I mean, that's a bigger conversation, but a lot of those thoughts today watching this team.
Yeah. Trying to find pieces that are part of the future is still a question on the defensive side of the ball. And to their credit, you are seeing them rotate more guys in, and you like that. John Meta was playing early in this game and then stopped playing. Marco Wilson
Hayward get in there.
Some situational play. Yeah, Shaka Hayward had 4 snaps. They were getting Cedric Johnson onto the field late in this game to get a little bit of run for him. I'm losing his number here. I'm trying to find out how many snaps he played, and I can't find him now. Very strange. Regardless, we did see some Cedric Johnson in this game. Mm-hmm. There it is. 10 snaps for Cedric Johnson in this game. Which ends up being part of the rotation when Sam Hubbard goes down with the injury. We will talk about Sam Hubbard's play that he was injured on in this game. Miles Murphy had a couple of really nice pressures, actually, as I was talking about how bad the defense looked on that garbage time drive. The one thing that did look good for the defense on that garbage time drive was the defensive front, where they were getting pressure to Mason Rudolph, who was still able to get the ball off, was able to check the ball down on a couple of occasions. Then the tackling was really dreadful in the secondary. But there was some life from that defensive front late in the game after, for the most part in this game, just not getting pressure to Will Levis. It wasn't pressure that was creating the issues for Will Levis, forcing the ball into places where he shouldn't have been trying to force the ball. It was just Will Levis being bad at quarterback. And so despite the turnovers, it's not like the Bengals were creating a ton of havoc to produce those turnovers. It was quarterbacks making bad decisions. It was a great tip drill play. It was 2 plays in the run game where certainly credit McKinley Jackson. You credit Trey Hendrickson for those plays. And John Meta who scooped up the fumble right on the one. And we talked about Jordan Battle dropping the ball before he crossed the goal line.
Could have and should have been touchdowns.
Could have had 2 defensive touchdowns in this game. Should have had 2 defensive touchdowns in this game. Nice to see the flash from McKinley Jackson there, though, making a really strong play on his end. Mike Hilton had an absolutely vintage Mike Hilton game. The blitzes from Mike Hilton were awesome in this game, and the interception was a fantastic way for him to clean up a pick drill and make a great play on the ball there. So there were some positives on the defensive side of the ball, but are you retaining Mike Hilton on the strength of this game? I think that's still a very complicated question. He's still coming off the field in obvious passing situations for guys like Marco Wilson, for guys like who else got on? DJ Ivy's getting on the field.
Right. In some situations early in the year. It's not ideal.
Yeah, there's clearly a lack of trust in pure passing situations there, which is a shame, because Mike Hilton's still really good at the things he's really good at, but it's a many-dimensional position that he plays, and the chief responsibility there is in coverage. And so when he can be abused a little bit sometimes in man-to-man coverage, it's rough, but he was really good in this game overall. And like you said, it was nice to see the bounce back from some of the players in the secondary. Cam Taylor-Britt with a late season bounce, showing that he should be in the conversation to continue being a starter next year, and will certainly be competing regardless of what happens on the defensive side of the ball. And Geno Stone putting together a nice stretch of games here down the stretch against, given some bad quarterbacks. But does that muddy the decision-making for you at all? For a long time this season, it was very clear to me that their free agent acquisitions on the defensive side of the ball, both of whom have easy outs on their contract, were not players that the Bengals should really be keeping going into this offseason. Has Geno Stone's play of late changed that for you at all, Joe?
I think it has. I don't have to immediately cut him. I think the other part of the evaluation is how is Jordan Battle playing, which I still feel is inconsistent. I do think he's brought a little bit of downhill toughness, a little urgency to the secondary getting downhill and playing the run. The run has gotten better. I felt like in a lot of ways, the first two drives in this game are maybe a good example. I felt the Titans are getting 5 every time, right? And then afterwards, I look up at halftime and they're averaging like 2.5 yards per carry. And I'm like, wow, they're really tamping this down now. And I thought they were hitting very hard in the beginning. Jordan Battle with a couple hits, Cam Taylor-Britt with a couple hits, especially on Chig at tight end, who's a solid dude, can take those. And Bengals were hitting hard. It wasn't until the end where I was like, where's the effort? Are they tired? Why do they look so slow and so stiff? There were moments where it did look good. But to answer it on Geno, I need to see how Jordan Battle plays. Can he be an immediate starter next year? Like, is he locked in as a starter? And if he's not, then I don't know that I have to cut Geno Stone right away. I need to, because then you got to figure out both safety spots. Do you have enough resources for that? I think there's enough evidence that he can play better than he has played for the first 12 games this year, for sure. Whether that's past experience with Baltimore or in the last few games here. Well, I don't remember what game it was. I think it was 4 weeks ago. Lou said that was his best game, even though PFF grades didn't agree. He didn't really make a splash play. Well, it must have been communication and alignment and things like that. Lou said that's his best game. And then we get a bunch of impact plays splashed in there the last few weeks. And you go, okay, well, if I can take some mistakes, if you're going to give me splash plays, I feel that way about Cam Taylor-Britt. So yeah, I'm at the point of, all right, we got 3 more games here, but I'm watching both and Jordan Battle and saying, all right, there's jobs to be had here. Are you guys we can count on for next year?
And imagine how much better the entire secondary would look if there was a pass rush that could actually impact things. If they could do a little bit of what they did with DJ Reader and not have to sell out to stop the run so often. There is something to be said for how much the front can affect the game. The Bengals just aren't getting enough out of that front right now, even though you're seeing some better performances like BJ Hill, you mentioned, putting some performances together. I think Joseph Ossai today had a few pressures, didn't continue his sack streak, still likely on the way out unless there's just not a market for him.
Right.
But given the need for pass rushers around the NFL and where he was, I mean, he was drafted later than we thought too. So maybe the NFL is just lower on Joseph Ossai than we were in that draft class as well. As we hit the halfway mark here, Joe, we're a little bit more than halfway. Actually, you guys have a chance to win a PlayStation 5. If you have not yet entered that hashtag, you can win that Bengals-themed custom PlayStation 5 with hashtag Bengals win in the comments. Only have to enter it once. More than one entry doesn't do anything for you. You get one entry. If you're here with us in the YouTube chat, we will be drawing that winner toward the end of the show. Let's flip gears here, Joe. And as we have never done, probably, I assume. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, I guess. Talk about the offense last, and a game that featured a Sam Hubbard touchdown.
That's right.
A game that featured an up and down offense that looked like it could have gotten more than it did, with a couple of Joe Burrow interceptions mixed in there. They really couldn't protect in this game. They really felt early the Devin Cochran left tackle issue, with Arden Key winning inside on a couple of plays early.
Yeah, has Cochran never seen a chip before? How do you get beat inside on chips? Like, you're getting help outside. Don't go out there.
And then you have issues with the guards that continue. Cordell Volson and Alex Kappa both really, really bad in pass protection in this game. And those guys are directly involved. I guess you could say, I was going to say directly responsible for it, but Joe Burrow certainly shares some blame here in the 2 interceptions that Joe Burrow throws. The fumble, I don't know. His elbow looks like it's probably down.
Yeah.
There are some fumble concerns with Joe Burrow. That's now 9 fumbles for Joe Burrow on the season, which ties his career high in a season with his rookie year. That is 6 fumbles for Joe Burrow in his last 5 games. It is 4 in his last 3 games. And he had 7 games there in a row in the middle of the season where he didn't have a single fumble. So the fumbles have certainly bounced back here. and not a trend you like to see. But more than that, it's, man, the protection, not good. And this is against a team that has had issues rushing the passer this year.
Yeah, even I would like to talk about Devin Cochran a little bit. He's a big guy, decent athlete, stiff, older prospect. So if you're hoping like maybe, teams get out of games with offensive tackle number 5. We've seen it before against us. And we're like, why isn't Trey beating this guy? What's going on? How's Fred Johnson just swallowing him? There were times where I thought Cochran had a nice block, or at least showed some nastiness. There were a lot of misses, a lot of mental, a lot of speed things. He couldn't get the trap on fast enough to get Jeffrey Simmons from blowing up a play in the backfield. He missed a couple guys in the second level on runs. It's just not playing, and maybe just not being that caliber of player to get to these blocks and do it. But at the same time, he got through a couple of those where Burrow's got to create, make some magic, hold the ball, get through. The first one, I'm thinking the Chase Brown touchdown. Cochran knocks his guy down twice. First knocks him, and then jumps on him afterwards. And I'm like, all right, there's a little nastiness. We'll take that. We expect you to lose. We know you're going to lose. The Bengals finally gave, chip help to that side. They've been helping Mims for a lot of I'd say the second half of the season. They switched it up and went to the other side here to give Cochran a little bit. But without Burrow going off script, especially early, this offense would have been struggling. Though that I think two parts. One, we understand when Burrow starts to run around a little bit and make magic happen, man, is it beautiful. But it also means two things. One, he's getting pressured typically, and two, the play probably didn't work initially. And so it's like on one hand, it's like, on the other hand, it's like, wow, it's so much fun. Look how good he is. And that makes, even in a 6-win season, worth the watch. But the other part I was going to bring up on the offense, because he's had another big game in a row. Chase Brown seems to be a guy that you can rely on, can take the beating, can carry the load. Although I don't know if I want him doing that. I still think the Bengals need to find a running back number 2 when we get to the offseason, whoever that may be, if that's Zach Moss, Herbert, or free agent draft pick, whatever you want to do. But I do think Chase Brown is the added element they've really needed in this passing attack. That's a dominant, passing dominant offense. They needed someone that could create explosives out of the shotgun, and they've been getting under center in the last 2 weeks. So I've liked that. I thought they've found a little bit of a rhythm when they've done it.
They've had some success going wide zone from under center the last couple of weeks, enough that I'm DMing people like, "Ooh, wide zone!"
Right
in this Bengals offense.
And Brown is reading it really well and quickly.
I also joked early in the game that if Chase Brown wasn't blind, he'd be really good at running back. He's already good, but man, for a blind guy, he's really killing it. I mean, the vision is the one part of his game that is inconsistent, is what I'm trying to say. I still think he's
brick
really
walls
good
consistently.
But there are occasions where there are cutback opportunities or lanes that he doesn't see, and so the vision is not perfect for Chase Brown. But that is very tongue in cheek. I think he's a great player, and I agree with you that he's been a key third weapon in this offense lately, led by T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. And when you have those guys with Mike Gesicki again contributing as an option in the passing game, and Chase Brown, the contact balance has come a long way for him, in my opinion. The ability to keep his feet, to push the pile forward. We saw it on his touchdown. We saw it multiple times, actually, on that game icing drive at the end of the game, where he's moving guys and bouncing off of tackles and keeping his feet. And those are signs to me that there is something sustainable with Chase Brown, at least for the life of that rookie deal.
I want to add one more. When Burrow goes off script, he's looking for Chase Brown a bunch. And
great scramble drill running
Chargers game, Cowboys game, Steelers game as well, and then this game. And it's like, man, he almost got that deep ball too. We get a pass interference, we'll take the yardage. But yeah, Burrow seems to have a good connection with him.
Yeah. Let's take a look at a few plays here. As we do, we were talking about first off, the ability for Joe Burrow to go on scramble drills. And before we do that, really quickly, I forgot to mention what we're giving away next week. We've got six of those jerseys that you can see on your screen right now. The Cincy jerseys. Joe, you want to talk about those jerseys for a second?
Yeah, company Wade and Williamson approached me about designing and promoting these Bengals custom basketball jerseys. And I've got one, and they are pretty cool. They are really good quality. So we get 6 of them to give away.
Yeah, they're obviously in Bengals colors there. They look very cool. We'll have 3 winners on Twitter, so make sure you're following at First Star Log on Twitter for your opportunity to enter there. And if you're back for the show next week, we'll be giving away 3 of them in the live stream as well. Okay, let's take a look at the Bengals' first touchdown of this game. A very cool play for Joe Burrow evading guys, and we'll first watch it on full speed as we see pressure from Alex Kappa's guy. That's big Tavondre Sweat. And then is 99 Simmons? No,
98 Simmons.
And the evasion of pressure here is what we're looking at, though.
Oh, for sure.
Extending the play, making one guy miss, getting outside of the
Cochran on
pocket.
his man. You see this? Go back and just watch Cochran.
We'll look at Cochran too. And then as you're talking about Chase Brown here on the scramble drill working with Burrow, but watch Cochran at left tackle here. Probably his best play in pass protection. He lands a snatch trap and then just
watch us
finishes. And one thing we've talked about this offensive line this year is that we do not see that nasty from this offensive line. And that's a nice play from Devin Cochran to show a little bit of that nastiness off. And a great play from Joe Burrow, like him making guys miss in the pocket is just a whole lot of fun to watch. We also got the Sam Hubbard touchdown that we can take a look at here, Joe, before we talk about what's going on with Sam. Sam Hubbard was ruled out after this play. Here he is lined up at tight end on the left side of the line of scrimmage, and the Bengals are going to go play action. Sam Hubbard pretty much alone, a little bit of a double catch there, but he ends up catching the ball, and he has
very
a
nice
knee
catch
injury.
for a D end.
Yeah, I was going to call it a contested catch, but it wasn't quite contested. Ends up that way a little bit, but somehow Sam Hubbard hurts his knee on this play, gets up quick, doesn't show any signs of injury here. Obviously must have felt something after the adrenaline wore off after the touchdown. Don't know any specifics about the injury yet, but nice to see Sam Hubbard get a touchdown on this play in a year that's been really tough for him, dealing with that injury, not playing up to the standard that we're used to him playing up to. And nice for him to get that touchdown there. Joe Burrow making sure to track down that ball for him as well.
Oh, did he?
Mm-hmm.
Good. I wondered about that. And this could be Sam Hubbard's. We don't know the extent of the injury. So I don't want to speculate too much. But the way Lou came over and Zach came over and people came, I was like, oh no. And then they immediately ruled him out. Not a good sign typically. If that is Sam Hubbard's last play as a Cincinnati Bengal, what a fitting play and a fun play for him to score on.
Incidentally, Jonah Williams also scored a touchdown. Speaking of big men that have some association with the Cincinnati Bengals, I've just seen this on my timeline. The Arizona Cardinals' first touchdown near the end of the first quarter. There was a fumble that he jumped on in the end zone.
Oh, okay.
And talked about a fumble in the end zone that he recovered. Anyway,
we should talk about Burrow and at the end.
I've seen a lot of comments
about that. Okay,
because he's talking about that in his press conference right now. That's what I got distracted by. I was reading comments. He was asked about it in his press conference. He said that he was frustrated in the day that we had on offense. It was too sloppy. We had too many penalties, too many procedural penalties. I had too many turnovers. It was just a frustrating day on offense. That is the quote.
That was the energy I felt watching that, was that Zach's trying to calm him down. Like, why are you so angry? We're up 37-21, and Burrow just does not want to hear it. We would read these lips, but probably some profanity involved.
Yeah, so cover your kids' eyes if you're watching. We will not repeat what he's saying here, but you can get an idea of what Joe Burrow is saying here. Very frustrated with the way the game is ending.
Screw that, or however you want, F that. And yeah.
And Zach saying, look, man, we're winning this game. We're up 37-21. The game is over. We ended up scoring more than 30 on offense.
It's ridiculous. Penalties.
Yeah. Joe clearly not happy.
We want that. Do we not?
No, I'm not. Yes, we do. Okay. I am not. Sorry. I don't know why I said no, because I'm not upset about this or anything. This is the fire that you want from Joe Burrow. You saw it multiple times in this game. They're showing him throw tablets on the sideline and this and that and the other thing to express his frustration. We've heard this from Joe in games they've won all year. Yep. The frustration when things aren't clicking at the level he wants them to be clicking. I mean, they didn't get Jamar Chase a touchdown in this game. What are we doing? I mean,
right. You're right.
That's tongue in cheek. Jamar did still have 9 catches for 94 yards, which I think keeps him on top of the.
He was comfortably ahead.
Well, not in all of the stats. I think he's still on top for everything. He was comfortably ahead for yards and for touchdowns. Catches was a little bit close. Brock Bowers at 87 and Jamar Chase at 93 going into this game. I don't know.
Monday night for Raiders, I believe. Okay. So
Monday night for the Raiders, and Dallas has played. Don't know what CeeDee Lamb did, but he had an 8-catch lead on CeeDee Lamb. They certainly manufactured some catches for Jamar Chase in this game with a couple of touch passes. CeeDee Lamb had 9 catches, so that distance remains exactly the same. 9 catches for Jamar, 9 catches for CeeDee Lamb. We'll see if Brock Bowers can close the gap on catches. Looks like it's going to be tough to catch Jamar for yards, tough to catch him for touchdowns, big leads there. So those things positive for Jamar Chase in the quest for the Triple Crown. Anything else, Joe, you want to cover today here before we get to our giveaway winners?
No, the Bengals are still alive. We did talk about draft positioning, but we really didn't say too much. Things broke their way a little. I mean, the Dolphins lost to the Texans, and this Colts and Broncos game, I don't think we're really going to know who we want to win. There's a lot of questions of who we should be rooting for. It really depends on the next 3 weeks. If we assume the Bengals win out to give themselves a chance, it's slight edge, go Colts.
Yes,
and if you
Colts.
think they're going to lose some games here, but if the Broncos get to week 18 and the Chiefs got to run away with the week with the number 1 seed in the bye week and don't play their starters and give the Broncos that win week 18, then I don't know. It's still Colts there, but the Broncos here need to lose more games than the Colts do. So it's tough. If the Colts win, we're not crying about it. But if the Broncos win, that still could be a good thing.
If the Broncos win and you're hoping that the Bengals are going to make the playoffs, the Broncos would need to lose out.
They would.
So that does make things tough. Let's get to our giveaway winners here, Joe. The Bengals moved to 6-8. We've got a couple of these awesome custom PlayStation 5s to give away courtesy of First Star Logistics. We have a winner from Twitter. That is
Jennifer Schultz.
Great timing, Joe. At Jennifer with a bunch of numbers. We will get in touch with you, Jennifer. Congratulations on that first PlayStation 5. We've also got one for those of you watching on YouTube. If you've entered that hashtag Bengals win, that is an entry to win one of those PlayStation 5s with that awesome Bengals theme going to it. And the winner on YouTube, gotta live in the United States. Just a reminder, there is Kenton Lucas.
Good job,
Congratulations to Kenton Lucas.
And Jennifer.
I am jealous of our winners this week, Kenton and Jennifer, winning those awesome PlayStation 5s. A sweet, sweet prize here on First Star Logistics YouTube channel, where they're giving Joe and I an opportunity to talk about each of these games. They're giving you, the viewer, the Bengals fan, awesome things to potentially win every week. So make sure you're following at First Star Log on Twitter. You'll see the details about each of these giveaways. Joe Goodberry's at Joe Goodberry on Twitter. I'm at Jake Lisco on Twitter. You're going to want to follow Dave Lapham in the trenches as well for a chance to win. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Jake and Joe Postgame Show presented by First Star Logistics. Can't say enough good things about First Star Logistics, one of the fastest growing companies in the Cincinnati area. Until next time, appreciate y'all for hanging out. Enjoy this win. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll see you next week.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realize self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.